I'm honored to introduce the Webb School of California Valedictorian for the class of 2020, Luke Raus. Over the last 4 years, Luke has taken full advantage of one of the most challenging and rigorous academic schedules that Webb can offer. In short, Luke is, simply put, an academic powerhouse. Here are some of the ways that Luke's teachers describe him. Exceptional, a formidable thinker with endless insight, an unstoppable force, a rock star student, and a deep thinker who questions the world and who is okay to dwell and ponder life's ambiguities and uncertainties. It is clear that Luke's passion lies in knowing not just the what, but the how, when, and why. Luke's academic performance is stellar. His transcript is littered with A+s and A's. His test scores are in the highest percentiles after taking the test only once, and he has earned recognition for several academic distinctions during his time at Webb, including, but not limited to, the Harvard Book Award, the Bausch and Lomb Science Award, the Unbounded Creativity in Science Award, was selected as a Hefner Scholar, a National Merit semifinalist, and a member of the Cum Laude Society. Given Luke's stellar academic record, it's tough to imagine that he has much time to do things outside of the classroom. However, nothing could be further from the truth. Luke has made significant contributions to the cross-country, track and field, and robotics teams. He demonstrates his commitment to Webb by his leadership in the Makers Collective, Math Club, and French Club. Luke's significance to this community is exemplified by his appointment to the Honor Committee, his multiple captainships to various teams, and multiple athletic and extracurricular awards that both faculty and students voted for. Additionally, Luke volunteers much of his time outside of Webb commitments to the community. He has served as a senior patrol leader, the highest leadership position for the Boy Scouts, and as a current Eagle Scout candidate, Luke is looking for ways to raise ecological awareness and give back to the greater Claremont community through volunteer work and service. It is clear that people respect and trust Luke. Yet, while his intellectual capacity and achievements at Webb seem to belong to someone who is well beyond their years, perhaps the greatest quality of Luke's approach to learning is his childlike curiosity, joy, and explorative nature. When Luke learns, it is clear that he is having fun. It is my great pleasure to present to you the WSC Class of 2020's Valedictorian, Luke Raus.
Hello and good day to all. It is my honor and pleasure to address the Webb School of California Class of 2020 as Valedictorian. I would like to offer my deepest gratitude to everyone whose efforts and energies have made this year possible. Mr. Stockdale, Dr. Smith, Mr. Dookie, the trustees, administration, faculty, staff, my family, fellow students, and of course, the class of 2020. Needless to say, I am a bit heartbroken to have to give this speech from here in my backyard, just a few tantalizing miles away from the bliss of Alamo Lawn. It's easy to dwell on what could have and should have been. Entering wearing leis to pomp and circumstance, cheering rowdily for each and every classmate, watching the juniors get out of their seats for perhaps a few too many cookie breaks, maybe tearing up just a little as we sing Farewell Forever to the days of our boyhood one last time. Yes, it hurts. But for me, it seems that in losing the opportunity to partake in these traditions, no less as we approach Webb Centennial, that I realize just how much they mean. As Joni Mitchell would remind us, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Missing out on a moment in our lives, so thoroughly codified in culture and tradition as to seem inevitable, speaks to the reality that life is fragile, that nothing is guaranteed, that good things can and sometimes do evaporate in an instant. This reality could be gloomy or depressing, but I prefer to take a different outlook. First, it serves as a reminder to take nothing for granted. What I have found myself missing since we left campus is not so much the big events, but all the tiny, little, day-to-day interactions that often pass unnoticed. Chatting with friends and teachers before class, waving to someone while trudging up from Chandler, bantering during warm-ups at practice, simply lounging in the dorms or the library, the spontaneous conversations and arguments and running jokes, the million glancing collisions and minglings of minds that bring color to life at Webb on an hourly basis. Their absence has been palpable in my life. These interactions with all of you, whether our paths crossed obviously and immediately, or silently and subtly, add so much vigor and enthusiasm to my life. For me, they are what transform Webb into home. I know I have gained a greater appreciation for these seemingly trivial tidbits of life, and I hope that we can all remember to notice and cherish them that much more dearly wherever we find ourselves in the future. Second, recognizing the fragility and evanescence of life reminds me to live life to its absolute fullest. Reflecting on my experiences at Webb, I've noticed that in the long run, I don't regret the things I did. I only regret the things I didn't do. The events I didn't attend, the chances I didn't take, the times I stayed home or stayed silent. Not every decision to do has had an immediate positive outcome, but through constant reflection and introspection and awareness, each continues to teach me just a little something about myself, or about the world, or life, or others. It's hard to learn anything if you don't show up. Admittedly, at Webb we have no choice but to attend classes and activities and many functions. But to really fully show up, that's entirely up to each of us. Personally, I've learned the most from my classes when I show up and engage fully, focusing on learning deeply and being impacted by that learning such that the grades take care of themselves. Overall, I guess it's worked. In the end, a Webb education, in fact any education, is worth so much more than a PDF listing letters next to course names or a ticket to the next stage of life. It's about what we did. It's about when we dove in. I'd like to share my side of a story about a time when I dove in, that is, to the world of robotics, specifically Webb's first Tech Challenge program. I joined fall season freshman year with no experience and a lot of hesitance. I was intimidated by the prowess of the then seniors, and only very cautiously dipped my toe in the water. The next year, I began to find my place on Team 358, but still limited my effort and involvement. Junior year rolled around, and I suddenly found myself at the helm of hardware and design. Suddenly, a substantial portion of the team's fate rested tangibly in my hands. Things changed fast. We overhauled the robot, put in tons of hours at the lab, made steady progress, and ultimately entered the elimination rounds of our all-important interleague tournament feeling unstoppable. And then we were stopped. Our robot literally did not move. We lost 2 critical matches in a row, our season ended, and I was crushed. I moped for a while, and in researching what had gone wrong, the Pandora's box of robotics was opened. I realized that there was an entire galaxy of information out there that we had barely tapped into. That also meant realizing that if we wanted to qualify for and be competitive at the World Championships, we had a long way to go. Our approach to robot building and programming was going to need to radically shift. At that point, I could have tossed my hands up and admitted defeat. Oh well, it's not meant to be. But I couldn't. I yearned to know more. I burned to win. And I thought, what are other high schoolers doing that we can't? At some moment in there, I closed my eyes, took the leap, and dove in headfirst. I could write a novel about what happened over the course of the past year. I did my best to rally the team under a shared goal. Let's go to Worlds. I started to spend weekends building up my skills and trawling the web for any robotics-related content I could get my hands on. Come September, I excitedly watched the year's game reveal video from the middle seat of a van on a road trip with the cross-country team, and started digitally designing our robot, which would be tasked with stacking what were essentially very large Lego bricks. The goal was to design and build a fully custom, world's-tier robot with bleeding-edge software to match. As prototypes were built and parts ordered, and emails exchanged, and passionate whiteboard discussions on control theory held, progress did inch along, but delays quickly crept into the timeline and compounded alongside the bustle of senior year. Before I could realize it, there were a few weeks left before Interleague, and our custom robot was still largely non-existent. We had been competing in our prior matches with a very simple robot that could not stack a single brick, but which, thanks to the tireless efforts of our software team, performed well enough to get us seated at the top of our league. We could have abandoned or delayed the custom robot dream and simply competed at Interleague with this very familiar system and put up a decent, though limited, performance. But did we? Oh no. We shot for the moon. Words don't do justice to describe the mental and physical and emotional toll of that decision, as we made this custom robot a reality in a few weeks, so I won't go into too much detail. It may have included shattering a few windmills at a local makerspace, and soldering away blobs of molten plastic, and throwing dirt clods behind the tennis courts for stress relief, and leaving the lab so late one night that security thought I was a boarder sneaking off campus. Sorry about that one. Ultimately, it took an all-nighter in the rhetoric room and unending work in the pits during competition to get something that could just barely stack by the final rounds. And even then, it wasn't enough. We were eliminated. There would be no worlds for Webb robotics. With just a little more time, 1 week or even just a few hours, we could have absolutely wiped the floor. But we didn't. It was what it was. We failed. In retrospect, there are many things I'd do differently, such as putting more effort towards involving everyone on the team. It was a journey full of mishaps and miscommunications and hesitations and mistakes. Did I bite off more than I could chew? Absolutely. But in the end, do I regret diving in and going for it? Do I regret our moonshot? Not in the slightest. I learned more from the process than I could have possibly imagined. I pushed myself to my limits, made some of the best friends of my life, and hopefully left a lasting impact on the program's culture with the determination to go big or go home. If anything, I regret not doing it sooner. To everyone who made it possible, mentors, teachers, donors, Andy from security, thank you for making Webb a community that lifted us up as we reached for the stars and got us back on our feet when we fell a bit short. You make it seem almost foolish to not take the plunge. Likewise, I would be remiss to understate the impact of you, my fellow students, and the class of 2020. Thank you for your support, your interest, your enthusiasm, and the times you showed up to our events or swung by the lab to get help fixing your roosted board, or just to say hi. Over the past few years, it has been a joy to watch each of you find your robotics, so to speak, often in realms that have nothing to do with motors and sensors. Soccer, sneakers, stocks, social justice, meta-irony, music, theater, fishing, programming, journalism, the list goes on and on. Thank you for pursuing these ventures wholeheartedly. Thank you for diving in. And perhaps most importantly, thank you all for offering unwavering support to one another as we each discover and rediscover ourselves. Our class is united, if not defined, by a deep sense of respect for one another as we live unapologetically as we are and simultaneously strive to become who we wish to be. The world will be a much brighter place if, as we scatter across the nation and the globe, we all seek to build and strengthen communities where this is a reality. That's the kind of world I want to live in. A world of 2020s. Thank you.